Good morning, good evening, or good night. Welcome to the UFO Forums Podcast. Tonight's episode examines the Allagash Abductions of 1976, a reported group encounter involving missing time in the Maine wilderness. Like and subscribe, and let's begin.
And welcome to the deep dive. We are so glad to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
Today, we aren't just telling a spooky campfire story. We are heading into the absolute thick of it.
We really are.
We are dissecting what is, well, it's arguably one of the most rigorously investigated, scientifically scrutinized, and frankly, just psychologically complex multiple witness cases in the entire history of the phenomenon.
That's it.
We are talking about the Allagash Abductions.
It is the heavy hitter. You know, in this field, we so often deal with the lone wolf account.
Right, one person on a dark road.
Exactly. One person driving alone on a dark highway telling a story that just, poof, evaporates the moment you ask for proof.
Yeah.
Allagash is different.
So different.
It's four men. It's physical evidence. It's a timeline that literally snaps in half. And it's a case that has survived, 50 years of debunking attempts, only to get more complicated with age.
Exactly. And not just four random guys, which is key. These were four artists. Trained observers.
Men who could draw exactly what they saw.
Yes. We're going to unpack the story of these four students from the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, whose camping trip turned into a decades-long mystery involving missing time, medical examinations, and eventually a fractured friendship that threatened to undo the whole story.
Now, we have a fascinating stack of sources to work through today. We're pulling from the official Mutual UFO Network, that's MUFON, their investigation reports by Raymond Fowler.
A legend.
Oh, a legend in the field, absolutely. We've got transcripts and production notes from Unsolved Mysteries, that's via Metal Floss. We're looking at retrospective articles from a paper called The County, detailing the controversy that erupted 40 years later.
That's a huge part of this.
It is. And crucially, we are going to be cross-referencing this with excerpts from Terry Lovelace's Devil's Den, which offers some really startling psychological parallels regarding how the human mind processes or, fails to process this kind of trauma.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to set the scene. It is August 1976.
Bicentennial summer.
The bicentennial summer, yeah. And we are heading to the Allagash Wilderness Waterway in northern Maine. Now, if you've never been to northern Maine, you have to understand this isn't just the woods.
Yeah.
This isn't a state park with a vending machine at the trailhead. This is wild country.
It really is. Based on the background material, the Allagash Wilderness Waterway is a protected ribbon of lakes, ponds, rivers, and streams stretching about 92 miles.
Or 92 miles.
It extends from Aroostook County into Piscataquis County. And it's a place with deep, ancient history. It was traveled by the Wolasticate First Nation long before Europeans arrived. It was their highway.
And later it became this massive logging hub, right?
Correct. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, it was just rough terrain.
Yeah.
Logging camps, river drivers moving timber downstream. It was known as a no man's land between French and English forces for a long time. It's remote.
So remote.
Even today, or at least back in '76, you often access these spots by float plane or canoe.
That's it.
It's pitch black at night. There is no light pollution, just you and the trees. If you get into trouble out there, help isn't coming for a long time.
Which sounds idyllic if you want to escape civilization, and that is exactly what our group is doing. So let's introduce our cast of characters here. We have four young men,
Right.
Jack and Jim Weiner, and they are identical twins.
Crucial point.
Very crucial. Then we have Charlie Foltz and Chuck Rack.
And as you mentioned, they were art students at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. This is a critical detail we will come back to repeatedly.
It really is.
They were trained to look at the world, to understand shape, form, shadow, and light.
Right, because usually in these stories you get someone saying, I saw a thing, it looked like a plate. But these guys, they have a vocabulary for visuals.
Exactly. In art school, you aren't just taught how to hold a pencil. You are trained in visual literacy. You learn to deconstruct what you are seeing.
Right.
So when these guys say they saw something, they aren't using vague language. They're describing it with a kind of technical precision, color values, structural integrity that we almost never see in witness testimony.
So the trip starts normally enough. They hire a pontoon plane to drop them at Taylor's Lake. They've got their canoes, they've got their gear. They're planning to spend a couple of weeks just, paddling and camping.
Sounds perfect.
It sounds great, just guys being guys, fishing and drinking beer. But the weirdness starts before the main event.
That's right. This is often overlooked in the quick summaries, but there was a precursor event. It was Tuesday, August 24th. This is 2 days before the big incident.
2 full days before.
They were on Chamberlain Lake.
And what happened?
They witness a large, bright sphere of colored light just hovering silently over the tree line. Now, what's fascinating here is their reaction,
Or lack thereof.
or rather their lack of reaction. They basically just dismissed it.
This is something that always gets me. If I saw a giant glowing sphere hovering over a lake, I feel like I would be, I don't know, freaking out.
You'd think so.
I'd be waking everyone up. I'd be packing the canoe. But they just ignored it.
It's a very strange behavioral anomaly,
Yeah.
but it's one we see repeated in these high strangeness cases.
Yeah.
It's almost a form of apathy or imposed calm.
Right?
We see this in the Devil's Den source material as well with Terry Lovelace. You see something impossible, and instead of panicking, your brain, or perhaps an external influence, just tells you it's nothing, move along.
It's like a psychological dampener field or
Nah,
something.
precisely. Lovelace describes it in his own encounter. He and his friend Toby saw a craft the size of a Walmart, and immediately after, Toby just said, "Show's over," and they went to sleep. It defies evolutionary biology. We are hardwired to run from danger, not, sleep through it.
So they cattle on. They don't dwell on it. And then we get to the night of the incident, Thursday, August 26, 1976. They have now reached Eagle Lake.
Eagle Lake is the setting. It's dark, pitch black. It was overcast, no moon.
Nothing.
And they decide they want to go night fishing for trout. But because it's so dark, they realize they need a beacon. If they go out on the water, they might not be able to find their campsite again. The shoreline is just a wall of black trees.
So they build a fire, and not just a little campfire to roast marshmallows.
No, this was an engineering project.
According to the sources, specifically Charlie Fultz's account, they built a massive bonfire. He described using logs the diameter of my leg.
Why?
We're talking 10 inches thick. This thing was designed to burn for hours.
That bonfire is the smoking gun of the initial event. It's forensic evidence. They stacked it high. It was a lighthouse. It was meant to be their safety line back to reality.
So the fire is roaring. They get in the canoe, all 4 of them, and they head out onto the lake. They're fishing. It's quiet. And then Chuck Wreck gets a feeling.
He felt he was being stared at. That primal sense of being watched, the
Oh, yeah.
hairs standing up at the back of your neck. He turns around, and that's when he sees it. A large, bright sphere of colored light.
And this wasn't just a point of light like a star. The description here is incredibly specific, isn't it? It was about 200 to 300 feet up.
Up in the air, yeah. And they described it as having gyroscopic motion.
What does that even mean?
Yes, the visual description is very vivid. They said it was divided into 4 quadrants of colored light. Red, green, and white. And the way they described the colors,
Yeah.
they said it was liquid,
Liquid.
like a thick sauce boiling.
Thick sauce boiling. That is such an artist's description. It wasn't mechanical flashing. It was organic, melding light.
It implies a technology or a physics that we just don't understand. Not metal and rivets, but energy and plasma.
So this thing is hovering there. And then Chuck Wreck decides to do something that, in hindsight, might not have been the best idea.
He engages. He picked up a high-powered flashlight and signaled SOS towards the object.
Why SOS? Were they in trouble, or was it just a pattern he knew?
No, not at that moment. It was just a recognized pattern. Intelligence. Signaling intelligence. He clicked the light. Short, short, short. Long, long, long. Short, short, short.
And the object reacted instantly.
Instantly. The sources say the object stopped its hovering and changed its behavior immediately. It was like poking a bear. A tube-shaped hollow beam of light shot down from the craft and hit the water.
A hollow beam, that's such a specific detail.
It is. They describe seeing a glowing ring on the water with a dark center. That indicates the beam wasn't a solid spotlight, it was a tube, a tunnel. And then the object in this beam started moving toward the canoe.
This is the panic moment. The fight or flight finally kicks in, overriding that apathy we talked about.
It's on.
They realize this isn't a star, it isn't a helicopter, it's coming for them. They start paddling frantically toward that bonfire.
We'll never get away. That was the thought running through Jack Wiener's head, according to the reports. The beam was advancing too fast. It swept across the lake and engulfed them.
And then, darkness.
Oh.
Or rather, a gap.
The gap. This is where the story shifts from a sighting to an abduction, because the very next conscious memory for all 4 men is being on the shore at the campsite.
Wait, let's pause there. 1 second, they are paddling for their lives, about to be hit by a beam of light.
Right.
The next second, they are standing on the shore.
Correct. They are out of the canoe. The canoe is pulled up on the rocks. They are standing there. And they watch the object hover about 20 or 30 feet above the water. Now, dead silent.
And then it leaves.
Then it shoots upward into the stars at tremendous speed. No sonic boom, just instantaneous acceleration. Gone.
Okay, so they made it back. They're safe. But then they look at the fire.
The fire is the key. Remember, they built a massive fire with 10-inch logs. It was meant to burn for 2 to 3 hours.
At least.
They felt they had only been fishing for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Just enough time to get out there, see the light, and paddle back. But when they looked at the fire, it was gone.
Gone.
Burned down to red coals and embers. A fire of that size takes hours to burn down to that state.
So what does this all mean? It means they weren't gone for 20 minutes.
It indicates a period of missing time.
Yeah.
Likely several hours that simply vanished from their memories. They were on the lake, the beam hit them, and then hours later they are on the shore with a dead fire.
And here's where it gets really interesting, a little creepy. You'd think they would be screaming. You'd think they would be sitting up all night analyzing this. What just happened? Where did the last 3 hours go?
But they didn't. They trudged back to their tents in what was described as a zombie-like state.
Zombie-like.
They threw a few logs on the coals, but they didn't really talk, they didn't panic, they didn't run, they just went to sleep.
This connects back to what we were saying about the apathy factor. It's almost like they were sedated.
If we look at the source material from Devil's Den by Terry Lovelace, we see a striking parallel, the show's over moment.
Right.
It implies that the abduction experience includes a post-hypnotic command to forget, to remain calm, to reintegrate. It's a defense mechanism, either imposed by the visitors or by the human mind, to prevent a total psychotic break.
I mean, that makes sense.
If you remembered everything at once, you might lose your mind.
So they packed up the next day and finished their trip, and they just didn't really talk
They
about it.
didn't talk about it for years. It lay dormant. From 1976 until 1988, 12 years.
12 years.
They just went on with their lives. They graduated, they got jobs, Jack and Jim pursued art. But then, the cracks started to show.
It started with Jim Weiner. Years later, he suffered a serious head injury.
Right, a fall that caused temporal limbic epilepsy. This is significant because the temporal lobe is deeply connected to memory storage and dream states. During his treatment, doctors asked him if he had ever had any unusual experiences. And that simple question unlocked the door.
Because the dreams had started.
Nightmares. Terrifying, vivid nightmares. Jim was dreaming of being naked on a bench, feeling afraid, but paralyzed. Being in a sterile clinical setting, seeing humanoids with large heads and big eyes levitating.
And here is the kicker. He calls his twin brother, Jack.
And Jack, who lived miles apart and hadn't discussed this with Jim, admits he is having the exact same nightmares.
Oh, that's horrifying to find out your twin is dreaming the same horror movie you are.
That's the kind of thing you can't make up.
Yeah.
So Jim finally reaches out. He contacts Raymond Fowler, a serious UFO researcher.
And Fowler takes it seriously.
Raymond Fowler is a heavyweight in this field. He didn't just take their word for it. He brought in a team. David Webb, a solar physicist, so a hard science guy, and Tony Constantino, a professional hypnotist. They launched a formal investigation in 1989. And they were very careful. They used blind hypnosis.
Explain that for the listeners. What is blind hypnosis, and why does it matter so much in a case like this?
It matters because hypnosis is controversial. Critics argue it can plant false memories or that the subject just, makes things up to please the hypnotist. Blind hypnosis means they separated the witnesses. They didn't let them swap stories or compare notes before the sessions. They regressed each man individually. If one man confabulated a story, the others wouldn't match. It's a control mechanism.
A scientific control.
And the consistency was terrifying. Under hypnosis, the memory block just crumbled. They recalled what happened during those missing hours.
Okay, let's go there. What happened inside the gap?
They recalled the beam. It wasn't just light, it was a transport mechanism. They felt themselves being transferred from the canoe up through this hollow tube and into the craft.
And the environment inside.
Sterile. Clinical. Diffuse white light appearing from everywhere and nowhere. It wasn't a spaceship with control panels and buttons like Star Trek.
No blinking lights.
No, it was a medical bay.
And the entities.
They described the classic grays. Large heads, big metallic eyes, small frail bodies, and fluid movement. They communicated telepathically.
And the men were examined.
Examined is a polite word for it. It was invasive. They were made to undress. They sat on plastic-like benches. The entities used pencil-sized rods with lights to look into their eyes and mouths. They flexed their limbs. But they also took samples.
Samples.
The outline is very specific here. They took saliva, skin scrapings, blood, feces, urine, and sperm.
Sperm. Okay. That brings up the genetic angle, doesn't it?
It does. And this is where the expert analysis kicks in. Why these four men? Well, Jack and Jim are identical twins. In abduction literature, there's a recurring theme of interest in genetics, in bloodlines. Identical twins offer a perfect control group for genetic study.
So they were lab rats.
Essentially. It makes them sound like wildlife biologists.
Yeah.
Imagine a team of biologists tranquilizing a polar bear. They measure it, take blood, maybe extract some reproductive material to check population viability, tag it, and release it. To the bear, it's a terrifying alien abduction. To the biologist, it's just data collection.
That puts us in the role of the bear. I don't love that.
It's a humbling perspective. And speaking of tags, Jack Weiner actually had physical evidence. A scoop mark. A perfect circular depression above his ankle that looked like a biopsy scar. It appeared after the trip.
And there was more with him, wasn't there?
Yes. Jack actually had another experience later in 1988 in Vermont involving a blue light and his dog, which resulted in strange burns on his feet. So there were physical traces on the body.
But the most compelling evidence might be the art itself?
Yes. Because they were artists, once they came out of hypnosis, they could draw what they saw. They didn't just say it was a gray alien. They drew the specific shape of the head, the hands, the instruments. They drew the craft, the beam.
And they all matched.
The fact that four separate men produced drawings that matched so closely without seeing each other's work first added a layer of credibility that most cases just don't have.
So this story blew up. It didn't stay in the UFO forums. It went mainstream.
It became a cultural phenomenon. They went on the Joan Rivers show. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Sitting on a couch next to Joan Rivers talking about sperm samples and gray aliens.
That is surreal. But the big one was Unsolved Mysteries.
Robert Stack, the voice of mystery itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to the source material from Mental Floss, the production of that segment was interesting. They used a visual effects company called Area 51.
Of course they did.
Ironic name, to create the special effects.
Yeah.
And they based those effects directly on the witnesses' drawings.
And Robert Stack, who had seen it all, ghosts, murders, Bigfoot, he was usually pretty skeptical about the UFO stuff, right?
Extremely skeptical. His producer said he would often roll his eyes at the paranormal scripts. But the Allagash case, it nailed Bob. That's the quote.
Nailed Bob. I love that.
He found these men to be completely normal, completely credible. He believed they stood to gain nothing by lying.
And that's the thing. They didn't get rich. They didn't become superstars. They just had this trauma.
No.
But, and here's the twist, not everyone stayed on the same page.
No. And this leads us to the controversy. This is segment 5, the reckoning.
This happens in 2016, 40 years after the event. Chuck Rack, one of the four, comes out and drops a bombshell.
He spoke to a newspaper, the Katikani, and claimed the abduction. Never happened.
Wait, he recanted the whole thing?
It's complicated. It's a nuanced recantation. He admitted to seeing the lights. He stands by the UFO sighting. He says, oh, yes, I saw the craft. But he denies the boarding. He denies the medical exam. He claims they stayed in the canoe.
Why? Why lie for 40 years and then flip the script like that?
Well, Rack claims he went along with it initially because he wanted to make money. He thought it would be $1 million story. When the millions didn't materialize, he grew bitter. But he also threw some heavy accusations at the group to try and discredit the event. He claimed they were stoned.
Drugs, the classic debunking angle, of course.
Rack claimed they had Afghan temple ball hashish and were high that night. He paints a picture of 4 guys just tripping out of their minds on a dark lake.
And the fire, the physical evidence, the missing time.
He attacked that, too. Rack claimed the logs on the fire weren't massive 10-inch logs, but small branches, just 3 inches thick, that burned down quickly, naturally explaining the missing time as just normal combustion.
Wow. He really tried to dismantle the whole foundation of the story. How did the others react?
Furiously. Charlie Foltz, Jack, and Jim Weiner vehemently denied it. Foltz stated flat out, we bought an 8-pack of beer for the whole trip.
An 8-pack
Yep.
for 4 guys for weeks.
That's it. They weren't high. They weren't drunk. He pointed out that navigating a canoe on a pitch-black lake while hallucinating is a recipe for drowning, not a coordinated hoax.
That's a very good point. And the fire.
They stick to their story. Massive logs, impossible burn time.
So what's going on with Chuck Rack? Is he the truth teller or is something else happening here?
The other 3 paint a picture of a man who is ostracized. They call him a loose cannon and a mental disaster area.
Ouch.
Jim Weiner alleged that Rack had actually approached them with a plan to create controversy, to sell a new angle to the media. Basically, let's say it was a hoax, that will get us back in the news.
So he wanted to cash in on a retraction.
That's the allegation. When the others refused, Rack went rogue.
That is messy. It's human drama wrapped in an alien mystery.
It is. And it raises an important question about group trauma. Trauma binds people, but it also fractures them. Rack admits he saw a UFO. He admits the lights, but he rejects the abduction. Is that truth? Or is that a psychological defense mechanism? Is it easier to say, I lied, than to live with the reality of, I was taken, regaining control of a narrative where he felt powerless?
And despite Rack's dissent, the other three actually passed polygraph tests regarding the abduction, didn't they?
They did. They passed, which Rack dismisses, but in the world of evidence, it carries weight.
So we have a split jury. 3 say abduction, 1 says just a UFO. But even the skeptic admits seeing a giant sphere with liquid colors defying physics in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. Even the debunked version is still a terrifying encounter with unknown technology.
I want to circle back to the context. We mentioned Terry Lovelace in Devil's Den earlier. This connects to a broader pattern, doesn't it? You always tell us to look at the patterns.
Yes. If we look at the excerpts from Devil's Den, we see case after case of similar phenomena. The silence is a big one.
They're not talking about it.
In the Allagash case, they didn't speak of it for 12 years. In the Lovelace case, he didn't speak of it for 40 years.
Why? Why the silence?
Fear of ridicule, certainly. But Lovelace suggests it's deeper. There's an agreement, almost, a psychological block. Lovelace and his friend Toby agreed not to talk about the Walmart-sized craft they saw. The Allagash Four drifted apart and stayed silent until health issues forced the memory out.
And the description of the entity seems consistent, too, across these different cases.
Very consistent. The grays, telepathic communication, the feeling of being paralyzed, the focus on biological material, whether it's the Allagash Four or the cases cited in Devil's Den like the fetal abduction case or the Mount Diablo case, there is a rigorous consistency to the procedure.
The procedure.
It's cold, it's scientific, it's not a meet and greet, it's a harvest.
A harvest? That's a disturbing word.
It is. But if you look at the data sperm samples, skin scrapings, implants, it resembles a tagging and tracking program, a biological survey.
So bringing it all back to Allagash, let's sum it up. We have physical trace evidence, the scoop mark, the burns. We have the fire that burned down in an impossibly short time, forensic thermodynamics that suggests lost time. We have the consistent testimony of 3 men and the partial testimony of a 4th.
And we have the art. I really encourage you, the listener, to look up the sketches from the Allagash case. There was a specific quality to the light, the way the entities stand. It captures a feeling of dread that words struggle to convey.
It really makes you wonder, did 4 men hallucinate the exact same medical procedure? Did they share a delusion?
That is the million-dollar question. Shared psychosis soliado, or in this case akatra, is incredibly rare, especially with such specific matching visual details. To me, the hallucination theory is almost harder to believe than the abduction theory.
Especially when you factor in the physical environment, the fire, the burns. That's not a hallucination.
And the simple fact that even the dissenter, Rack, admits to the UFO. Something happened on that lake, something that defied their understanding of reality.
It's a story that stays with you. It's the silence of the woods, the darkness, and the idea that you can lose time, that hours of your life can just be snipped out.
It challenges our sense of continuity. We assume our timeline is unbroken. But these men, they have a gap. And what fills that gap is the stuff of nightmares.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it for tonight. A fire burning down while you blink. Who stole the time? And more importantly, what did they do with it?
A provocative thought indeed.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Check out the sketches, read the reports, and decide for yourself. Until next time.
Keep looking up.